Hey guys, how's it going? First off, I'd like to invite you and say welcome to my new YouTube lesson series. This is going to be running alongside the stuff I post on Instagram every Thursday, or at least try to do every Thursday. And going off of that, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting me so far. We just passed 1,000 followers on Instagram not too long ago, and I think we just crossed 1,500 on Facebook as well. So keep up the fantastic work. It makes doing these videos a whole lot more rewarding, and it really means a lot that I can keep making content that you guys enjoy. So let's get into it. Today's lesson I'm going to be talking about chord scales, and this is something I got asked about a bunch in the past week, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk about it. However, chord scales in general are a very broad topic. So what I wanted to do was discuss, really go a little more in depth with it, and discuss also the harmonic awareness aspect, which I think gets lost in translation every so often when studying chord scales. So the usual scenario I see happening in students is as follows, and it brings back memories because I definitely went through this phase as well, where you have a chord, let's say in this case G minor, and you know that there's a scale that pairs up with it. You can play G Dorian over a G minor chord. Makes sense. However, or let's say that this chord pops up either in a one chord setting or over a set of changes. But when it comes to soloing over the chord, or the changes really, the solo reflects the changes and doesn't at the same time. Ideally what we want to do is, well, have the soloing reflect the harmonic background that or the harmonic layer that we're playing on top of. So this becomes an issue. And specifically because, now it's one thing to solo loosely over changes and allude to them every now and then, but it's a very different thing to do that with intention. If that's not really truly your intent, then that means there's a fundamental issue in really how you're relating the scale to the chord. So that's what I call harmonic awareness, being aware of your harmonic surroundings. So to me, this really represents just a very surface level thing. For me, understanding that this scale pairs with this chord is a surface level observation. It's just the first step. There are three more that I consider extremely important in the study of chord scales. So, as follows, we have chord tones, tensions, and avoid notes. So let's start with chord tones, because for me this is the real essential sound of the chord. Using chord tones in itself will really give you the sound of whatever you're playing over. However, that's not to say, okay, only play the 1, 3, 5, and the 7, and just base your solo around that, but rather place a heavier emphasis on those notes, and you'll hear this word emphasis crop up a fair bit throughout this video. So let's take our same chord, G minor, and in the context of harmonic awareness in chord scales, we should be able to tell where's our third, where's the fifth, the seventh, and the root. And as such, we should be able to structure our melodic phrasing and ideas around this with ease. As I said, this is the meat and potatoes, if you will, of harmony, especially in improvisation. So what this means is beginning your ideas or ending and resolving your phrases with these in mind. Right? To really accurately reflect the harmony. However, how do we visualize these? How do we really learn to start integrating these into our playing? Now, for the interest of time, I'm just going to keep this brief, but if you'd like and you find this next little tidbit interesting, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do a video on it. So how I visualize these is by using chord shapes, and I've amassed a sort of chord vocabulary that allows me to visualize all these chord tones at any given moment in time when I'm improvising in conjunction with my scales. So for example, let's take that drop to G minor 7. I have my 3rd, my 5th, my 7th, and my root. But then, as I said, it's more, this really allows me to visualize where everything is, but this will only work if I can actually understand where everything is within the chord. If I'm just thinking of the chord shape, okay, I understand the chord shape, but I still don't understand what's in the chord. That's the disconnect, if you will. So I would suggest really looking into chords and trying to merge that into your playing, and then try really understand where everything is. So the next subject, or really the next layer or level, is tensions. Now tensions, to me, they're the next level because they will give you the sound of the specific type of chord. So going with this Dorian example, if we had, or if we had the 13 in there, then we know, okay, that's immediately a Dorian sound. So coupling that and using these notes as emphasis every so often will really, in conjunction with our chord tones, will really allow us to truly get the sound of the chord. For example, right? I just hit that E natural for maybe one small moment, but that was enough to really invoke that Dorian sound. Now, again, how do we go about visualizing these? Much in the same way, using building chord voicings and using those as ways to see them within your scale patterns. Simple stuff. Just like that. Or even visualizing. Just all these small little shapes really help to bring a sort of structure into your playing. But not the kind of structure where everything's rigid, but helping you to see a roadmap for yourself. So the last bit, or the last layer, if we will, is avoid notes. Now, avoid notes are pretty self-explanatory. It's notes you avoid. But instead of taking it too literally and avoiding them entirely, I would say avoid placing too much, here's the word again, emphasis on them. So for example, a very common scenario is, let's say, a major 7 chord, a C major 7 chord, but with someone playing F natural on top of it. Now here's the thing, you want to still be using this F natural at various points in your solos, because that's the difference between, let's say, a C Ionian sound and a C Lydian sound. But you do not want to be spending too much time on that note itself. So how do we use this note without, well, omitting it entirely? Well, you can use it as a passing note, much like so. Or you can use it as an approach note. And there I was using it as an approach note and as a passing note towards the end of the phrase. So this is really the simplest of the bunch, and there are various scales that do have avoid notes, some do not. The easiest way to find them is to look at your scale and see which notes are a half step above a chord tone. If it's a half step above a chord tone, it's more than likely an avoid note. Likewise, if you find a note that's a whole step above a chord tone, that's a tension. So in closing, I hope this video has helped really just give you a deeper understanding on how I look at chord scales and how I really just think about and organize my fretboard a little bit when I'm improvising. Granted, at first, yes, it seems like a lot to think about, but eventually through practice, you find that you'll eventually start associating the sound in your ears, and you'll be able to tell, okay, this is what a fifth sounds like, this is what a third sounds like, and then at that point it stops being really a theoretical application and becomes musical. So I hope you've enjoyed this little lesson for you guys. Also, I do want to say I do offer Skype lessons, so if you're interested, do shoot me an email. I offer them in both English and Spanish for anyone interested. Also, do check out my social media. It would really mean a lot. I'll put the links in the description below. And also, let me know what you think of this lesson, if you want me to do more, what topics you'd like, and please do consider liking and subscribing. Hope you guys enjoy!